3 years ago we finished what might be the most ridiculous looking header ever bolted to a Mercedes V12. But the goal wasn't horsepower, we wanted Formula 1 sound. So we built a completely absurd 12-into-1 header that snakes all the way around the engine before merging into a single collector, and then we put it on the dyno. What happened next made absolutely no sense. These headers are 60 inches long, and that is a problem. The length of conventional long tube headers is usually between 29 and 38 inches. Making them any longer than that sacrifices peak horsepower in exchange for more low-end torque. So we already knew what the dyno result was going to look like, or at least we thought we did. Because instead of losing horsepower, this thing gained a ridiculous amount of it. 519 horsepower, 111 more than stock. 74 more than this car with exactly the same engine, but fitted with a pair of 6-into-1 headers.
445 PS und 630 Newtonmeter.
We are talking about a 23% power gain from a naturally aspirated engine with just bolt-ons. That's almost unheard of. Maybe the dyno is lying, but there's one number on this graph that this dyno can't fake, and it surprised me even more than the horsepower figure. Peak torque RPM. According to exhaust tuning theory, on a header this long, that number should have moved lower. It didn't. Either the theory is wrong, or something unusual is happening inside this header. Merging 12 cylinders into one collector is extremely unusual. Even some Formula 1 engineers admit that the collector is one of the least understood parts of an exhaust system. But we do know one thing: an exhaust is not just a pipe that carries gas away. Engines aren't continuous airflow devices, they are pulsating air pumps. Every time an exhaust valve opens, it releases hot gas, but it also creates a pressure wave that travels through the header at the speed of sound. And the entire header is basically a device that controls when those waves arrive back at the cylinder. When multiple exhaust pipes merge, they create something like a chamber. A pressure wave enters that space, expands and reflects back. And the more pipes converging, the larger that expansion chamber becomes. The bigger that chamber becomes, the stronger that reflection can be. Some engine designers believe that merging more pipes into a single collector produces slightly higher power than fewer pipes. But the really interesting part is what happens when you remove the collector. Formula 1 engineers discovered that leaving the collector off and letting every primary pipe discharge directly into open air can cause a dramatic power loss. In extreme cases, around 100 horsepower in a Formula 1 engine at high RPM. But they only found that empirically through testing. Their simulations didn't show the same losses. Which makes absolutely no sense. A free pipe should have the ultimate open-end reflection, because the exhaust wave is expanding into an infinite chamber. But why did they lose power, and why didn't the simulations show it? There are two plausible explanations. And one of them I've never even considered before. The kinetic ejector effect of the fast-moving gas stream from the other cylinders is well known. But according to this book written by a former F1 engine designer, this might not be the most important part. It is what the wave reflects against. With a collector, the wave reflects inside hot exhaust gas. Without it, the wave reflects against cold atmospheric air. Those two environments behave very differently. Think of it this way: if you discharged an exhaust pipe underwater, the wave would reflect almost like it hit a wall. Because water is much denser. The same principle applies here, just on a much smaller scale. The simulations missed this because they assumed the surrounding medium would be hot exhaust gas. Even when modeling an open exhaust, the physics was there, the models just were not looking for it. So the hot collector creates a low impedance environment that lets the waves reflect more effectively. That means stronger suction waves will travel back to the engine, helping to pull out more exhaust gas and making room for the next fresh intake charge. But that would only explain why torque is up. It doesn't explain why peak torque has moved to a higher RPM. So I checked the math. And that's when I found the real reason why this header works. A long tube header that's 29 inches long is actually perfectly tuned for something completely different. It captures the first returning suction wave perfectly if your engine revs to around 11,000 RPM. But that's not what most street engines do. The reason conventional long tube headers are in the 29 to 38 inch range is because they are not designed to take advantage of the first suction wave. They are waiting for later ones. That has multiple benefits, but one major drawback. You get shorter tubes, less heat loss, less wall friction, and headers that actually fit normal engine bays, with fewer pipe bends, and it keeps wave steepening under control. The problem? Every reflection loses energy. The more cycles pass until the wave returns, the weaker the effect. Only high revving engines like you find in Formula 1 don't have this problem. At 18,000 revolutions per minute, everything needs to happen 3 times as fast. Therefore, the header can be 1/3 of the length and still capture that first strongest pull of the wave reflection. And our Mercedes V12? At 60 inches, these headers are long enough to capture the first wave reflection at around 5,300 RPM. Exactly where this engine makes peak torque. That reflected suction wave carries a lot of energy, helping the engine to breathe. The crazy part? We weren't even finished. The variable intake cam wasn't even set up yet. Meaning that engine is running at almost 0 valve overlap. The exhaust was fully optimized. The engine wasn't. And it still gained 111 horsepower. And there was more in it. We still had a lot of work to do. But not to make more power. We wanted Formula 1 sounds.